my dear viewers, beginning today is the official Alliteration Gaming Patreon and channel members. Throughout my Patreon, we've got quite a few tiers you can check out in order to gain special perks and even commission videos that you'd like to see me upload onto the channel. Every tier includes a shout out on my supporter card at the beginning of all of my videos, along with the benefits of the tier itself. Following that, you can now also join the Alliteration Nation by becoming a channel member on the YouTube side of things. Pledging your subscription here as a member of the channel is going to grant you the same shout out on my supporter card as all the Patreon tiers do, as well as access to the members only channel on my Discord. You'll gain a member badge that will level up as you stay subscribed and access to my exclusive emotes when I stream on YouTube. If you're interested in checking out the Patreon, I'm going to have the link in the description and in the pinned comment down below, as well as the link to my Discord should you want to join that as well. And if you want to become a channel member, the big beautiful join button is front and center on my homepage right here. And if you do decide to support the channel in any way whatsoever, know that I am unimaginably grateful, and I can't wait to provide you with even more top-notch content at my trademark top speed. Now, let's get on to the video. Welcome dear viewers to another Alliteration gaming video. My name's Levi, it's Wednesday, and so it's gonna be time for Wealthy Aspirations. If you're new here guys, this is our weekly series that we do every single Wednesday where we just go across TCG Player and we look at a handful of cards that I've selected that I think are just really noteworthy. Maybe they're way too expensive right now, maybe they're way too cheap right now, maybe they're gonna become one of those things in the coming future based on what's going on in the game right now. Regardless of what its state is, the goal of this series is to keep the whole community up to date on what's going on with the prices of things in the market. So let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to go over is a few things at once actually. I want to look at kind of like set 3's really good ultra rares in general. So Stun Grenade, Piercing Needle, and Twisting Azure. These have all kind of seen some pretty minimal hikes because they're not very expensive in the first place. Like Twisting Azures have kind of always been like, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that. You know, Piercing Needles have seen some crazy stuff in the past, but have generally maintained that same exact price range. And the same goes for Stun Grenades, save for a little bit of craziness in the past. For the most part, these have been really chill, and breaking $10 is a rare for them. But I think that they're all actually kind of starting to begin to be on the cusp of that, right? Stun Grenade is only at like, you know, $9 technically with the shipping here, but after that there's only a few at that price point. We have one at 9, we have one at 11, we have another at 11, we have 12, and then after that they start getting real wild. This is not many. 5 of these is just not very many. And then kind of the same goes for Piercing Needle, right? It's found its way already up to like 13, 14, and then they just get more and more expensive after that, which makes sense, right? Toga 2 hype is coming up, Twisting Azure, same thing. Dobby 2 hype is super real. $11 pretty much becomes the standard for these after this one here sells, and they could easily get more and more out of hand after that. The set 3 URs I didn't really pay much attention to for a long time because there were just so many, but these 3 in particular have always been like at least $5, and they're really starting to climb their way up now as the hype for set 4 approaches. Again, Toga 2 hype and Dobby 2 hype, this just makes a ton of sense. Death Furies is something that gets way better in set 4, so it makes sense that this is getting more expensive too. In general, these are just very sought after cards, and I think we're finally arriving at the point where the well is drying up a little bit and that these are actually going to be worth money pretty soon. So I would pick these up if you haven't already, because I think things are probably going to get a lot more expensive before they get any cheaper, if they do get any cheaper. Next up, we're going to go into promo territory. This is the big thing this week, guys. The extra credit releases and destined for mainstream successes have hit absolutely ridiculous ranges. They have continued to actually sell at this like really wild $70, $80 price point for both of them, which is just absolutely nuts. Guys, you don't need to be buying them for these prices right now. I mean, look, if you have the money and you want them, more power to you. But if you are looking for a good price on these, this is not what you need to be paying, because as stores continue to roll out these sealed events in the coming weeks, the stores are going to be receiving more and more of these. And yes, even though release and destined or the short printed ones, so there's always going to be a lot less of them, and they're also like the most in demand ones, so it just kind of makes sense. The stars align for these to be expensive, but not this expensive. As these stores keep getting these events out and keep opening more and more of these, they're going to regulate themselves over time, and I think that the days of these selling for 70, 80 bucks are not going to be happening much longer, and I definitely don't think there's any reason for them to be selling at the $100 that people are trying to get for them now. These are just really crazy prices, and you can definitely wait for better. Next up, normally I don't like to talk about cards 2 weeks in a row unless they make really interesting fluctuations from week to week, but that is actually happening, guys. We have got to talk about Chivalrous glamorous competitor again. When we last looked at it, it was kind of hovering around like 20 bucks, which felt like a buyout price. We weren't really sure if it was real or not. Well, I'm here to say that it is actually pretty real price, because now there's only a couple left for 25 bucks. And if you look at the history, guys, this last week or so, about right here, they actually were selling for 20s, for 27s, 3 sold for 27, 1 for 25, 1 for 27, 3 for 25, 1 for 20, 3 for 25, 3 for 15, 3 for 15 today. Whoever got these, man, you struck some gold right there, because I think this is just a $20-$25 card right now. This is like a 4 of staple in like every deck on all 3 of these symbols, because it just does a lot of really good things, and it happens to just really counter one of the best cards still in the format, which is Season the Advantage, and it's a promo card. Honestly, all the stars just align for this to be a $20 card. I remember when this like first hit the market at the beginning of set 3, it was just like super duper cheap. Like if we go all the way back in time, we're probably gonna find them for like $2, $3, $4, or $5, because that just was an era at one point in time. Yeah, look, here it is, boys. Oh my goodness, can you imagine getting these for this cheap all the way back in October? 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4, $5. Crazy people. It just took a little bit for people to realize how meta relevant this card was going to be. And I think if you're thinking that this is one that's going to go down considerably anytime soon, listen, man, the fact that this card stayed like 12, 13 bucks through Nats season, arguably the most important tournament season of the entire game, like that was at the point in time in which it was most relevant for you to own 4 of these for your competitive deck, so you could have a chance at qualifying for Worlds. Nat season, this card held $12, $13 strong, and then even in World season, which was probably the second most important time to own 4 of these if you didn't already, which you probably did, but again, if you didn't, it was the most important time to own them because it was the most important event going on at the time. It still held like a $15 price point, and now people just aren't really opening the set 3 anymore. It's not super valuable to open the set anymore. Those quirk packs aren't going into fluctuation as much as they are anymore. I think that there's really just a ton of reasons for this to stay at least 20 bucks. If you can find them for bare minimum 20, I think that is just an okay price for these at this point. I don't think that you can hold out for much better. I could be proven wrong, but I think as long as this card stays relevant, it's just not going to go anywhere price-wise anytime soon. But we're probably going to have an update on it again next week if it does do anything drastic, so stay tuned for that. Next, let's talk about Excited for Blood. This is another one of those kind of times where I have to note that the UR and the XR are almost the exact same price, and the RLE one is not much more expensive, and you can pretty much get as many as you want at that price. There's a ton here for 25, there's a ton here for 26, 27, and there's one for 35, and then it gets like 40 onwards. Obviously, the RLE promo, is not going to be as mass quantity wise, so this is actually like a pretty good price to get a couple of them for like the 40 range if you do really want them. But my point being is that Excited for Blood is a card that's getting more and more hype going into set 4. Death and Evil looking a lot better. People are going to want to play Toga too, and they're going to want to jam this card all day because it has Toga's face on it. That's just going to be what the people want to do, and you got to understand that. So this is a good time to be selling these. As far as a good time to be buying these, I think if you really are not like dying to play this card right now, you can probably wait to get it more so around like the $18 to $20 range. Not a massive drop, but that is more so what it's kind of been selling for in the past. Next, I want to look at Go for the Win being bought out. Go for the Win XR specifically. So we've not really talked about this card on Wealthy Aspirations very much. So for those of you who aren't in the know, the Go for the Win XR is not one that existed in the first print run of set 2. They just were not in the boxes. You could not pull one. They didn't exist in the first print run. Now, subsequent print runs have included them. So it is actually possible to get these now, but much like set 3, no one is opening set 2 anymore. The value of that set is so horrendously low that the chances of people pulling those boxes out and actually wanting to crack open those packs is so low. So point being, Go for the Win XRs just aren't being put across the market. So as you can see, a couple of them have sold in the past, 2 of them in fact, and then that's literally it. So if you can get your hands on one of these, I think it is a very sought after card, but it's more so the fact that just no one is opening set 2 to find this, and that's going to keep it at a very real price for a very long time, I think. Next, let's venture back into the promo range, and I want to look at specifically Jiro, and I want to look at the Shoto promos here. These almost don't exist anymore. They are almost gone. We've got 4 Jiros in existence at the $40 range, and then we've got 4 Shotos in existence in like a $35 range, and that is a pretty reasonable price for these given what they've sold for in the past. I think Jiro's been like a little bit cheaper. Used to kind of be able to get them for like 30, 35-ish, and then they've kind of gone back up more so recently. But I think these are really starting to dry up. These are like, I mean, Jiro is one of the strongest characters in the game and probably will be for a very long time. Shoto is also very good and just a fan favorite character-wise. Again, you have to look at all of the Arlie promos with a grain of salt because it's more so like they get bought up, they get bought out, and then someone out there is like, yeah, I don't need these in my collection anymore, and they kind of get put back into the market. But finding them coming back into the market is very rare, so anytime that they're starting to get scarce, you do always have to deal with that fear of, ooh, if I don't get it now, am I going to be able to get it later? And that's just always a question you have to ask for yourself. If I see these be 60, 70 bucks in a month and I just never get to have one, does that break my heart? That's just the decision you have to make. Next, I want to look at the GenCon promo, specifically Meteor Shower. There's barely any left of. Let's Fight Bad Guys. There's barely any left of. Capture Evildoers. There's barely any left of. All Might, there's none left of. We are finally entering the range of these GenCon promos being crazy bought out and crazy expensive. The Meteor Showers had started selling for like 35-ish. There's a couple more at that price point, and I don't know if there will be more after that. Let's Fight Bad Guys kind of saw the same thing. Started selling for around 20, 25-ish. That's what these last couple are now. Capture Evildoers, same thing. It started selling out at around 15 or so. Now that's what these last couple are. And then All Might, looks like the last few All Might sold for like 30 bucks. Man, that's crazy, dude. They were literally handing these things out at Gen Con for making surveys. That's absolutely nuts that these are selling for that much money now. But if you're someone who was hanging on to those Gen Con promos, waiting for the market to be a lot less oversaturated so that you could finally make some real money on these, your patience has paid off because these are worth the big bucks now. And if you've got some sitting in your binder, it is a great time to finally bust them out and make some real money. Next, let's look at some Set 1 staples. I've got It Can't Be Fixed here. There's a handful of It Can't Be Fixed, first edition no less, for like $10, which is a really good price for these. These have sold for a really crazy price in the past. There's a couple for 35, some for 20, and they've been at like the 15, 18-ish range for a long time now. And so to see a few of these in stock for 10 bucks, I think these are fantastic pickups. I would not be surprised to see these gone next week. Next up is tape. We got a bunch of tapes here for like 7 bucks, and I think that is just a really good price for these. They've sold for more, they've sold for less in the past, but either way, I think anything under $10 for this card is really good. So these are also just some really valuable pickups that I kind of noticed. I also want to take this opportunity to just talk about Order XRs in general. Order and Evil are the two symbols really glowing up in Set 4. Set 3 did not treat them super duper nicely, and I think Set 4 really puts them on a path to possibly finally enter and re-enter the meta. So I'd be keeping an eye on all of these Order cards, things like these, all of the Denki XRs, a lot of the Moneta ones for Order and Evil, just a lot of those fairly cheap XRs. It's just always a good time to pick those up with Set 4 on the horizon. Next, I want to talk about momentum hate for these last few cards. So I've selected Exploding Pride here alongside Instant Shining Flash and alongside Capture Evildoers. Now, these aren't like super expensive right now. Exploding Pride is really the craziest one at 8 bucks, but I think in this coming format, looking at Set 4 and a lot of the decks in Set 4, momentum hate is becoming very important. And so honestly, any card that does momentum hate as an XR or even just as a base rarity one sometimes, I think you should be keeping an eye on. These are just kind of the 3 that I've selected to talk about them because they do have like some actual not pennies price, but I think it could be said for any of these cards that hate on momentum. They're going to be really valuable pickups in the coming days, and I think this might just be something to catch on to before it really goes supernova, like how Chivalrous Competitor Combating Season the Advantage did right as Set 3 kind of entered the peak of its competitive season. Exploding Pride is already kind of getting a little bit expensive here, and I think that these are 3 very relevant symbols in Set 4, so it's probably the most noteworthy one here. But if you find any other hidden gems there as far as the momentum hate train goes, good on you. I just think it's a cool thing to be aware of right now. And that's going to put a wrap on this week's Wealthy Aspirations. Honestly, we didn't really have a ton of stuff to talk about. It's really just a lot of like crazy promos still going wild here, but I do think that those Set 3 ultra rares, the Twisting Azure, the Piercing, the Stun Grenade, I think those are really good things to have an eye on right now because they might be getting out of hand very soon. And the momentum hate train is probably something that you should just be aware of going into this new unknown Set 4 format very soon. So thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you liked the video, if you learned anything from it, if you enjoyed it, and if you want more of it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me some feedback down in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to go the extra mile and support in more intensive ways, the join button is going to make you a channel member, giving you a ton of perks for when I stream on YouTube. And of course, the Patreon is down there below too, in case you want to commission some video experiences with me one-on-one and have some input on the types of content that I make. I'm going to have all of that, as always, linked below in the description and in the pinned comment. Above all else though, thanks so much just for making it to the end of this one, and I hope I'm going to see you in the next video.